Hello, everyone, and welcome from this shortened LCK week to another episode of the Monte and Wolf Show with me, dGon, which, Wolf, seems to be the leading comment topic that we have in last week's comments. That's right. I don't know if you or Monte used to read the comments before, but now it's time to call out some of the commenters. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
All right. Yes. All right.
Non-Monty comment call outer.
That's yes. Just change the show name. It's not like it was a 1,000 viewers show for the 5 to 10K of us who watch. They don't care. All right. That's one. Okay. I think for the last episode,
don't care.
Yeah, we should get a quick short of dGon dancing shirtless so he could say he went full Monty. Again, another one about the show, Wolf. This Monte and Wolf without Monte Teehee. Where's the good one?
Monte.
Monte. I like that one. Another one. They should probably. This one's not bad. Rename it to D Wolf is Gone Show. All right, Ricardo Segueda 9286. I appreciate it. Let's stew on that one. Let's stew on that one a little bit.
Try again this week with a new comment of the show title change.
Do appreciate it. Do appreciate that one not being toxic. Unlike this one, which comes from fan favorite Bro Dude Man 9390. I'm not liking this duo. Wolfay and dGon are both a little annoying, but for different reasons. So together is a bit much. You know what?
It's so true. We're both annoying for different reasons, but we're also both great for different reasons.
Yes. I feel like this guy, he might be onto something, though. I'm sure he has other great takes. So if you click on his little profile picture there, you could scroll down and see the other great takes he has. In Power Spike, it says, Jamada is such a boring host. Okay. Short to the point. But then after that, that's a great point. Mentally ill freak. Oh, okay. All right, bro, dude, man. I will take that into consideration in the future. I think we had one more that was pretty good, but
he's only taking into consideration because you guys know dGon is the bro dude man, like in real life.
That's that is true. Which then led me to my next topic, just real quick. Ox posted in our LCK Bros chat, because we're all bros, that our clips are getting the global feed goes to all of the other feeds, not the Korean feed. The global feed does. So when we do our bits, like with me eating the ice cream or me reacting to bro, it's going to the Mandarin
feed, the Vietnamese feed.
Area,
yeah,
and they are getting translated. And so I was just interested in what they thought I was doing, because I had a couple of bits of like, oh, bro's losing and I'm losing my mind. And you can hear the casters kind of like be like, what's happening? And so I sent it to my friend who speaks Mandarin. She was like, they're saying you're having a heart attack. So
I saw that same clip, but I didn't know what they were saying either. So that's like, very funny.
Does it now make you think about the bits that we do? Because they're going to watch them. They're going to see them. Also, I went to Google Translate and responded back to them, and then we were like talking through Google Translate.
That's very cool. I'm happy that we're doing some new stuff this year at the LCK in terms of like incorporating, your reactions to pro games and stuff like that, because I don't know, it's just a cool change up. Because they don't show like the bro fans losing their minds as much, but like having you like lose your mind is great. I don't know. I think it adds like this extra element of like memery, but also truth, because literally your unscripted reactions, not even planned or anything. It's very funny.
I just think that, when this is gonna sound not great. When I was at LCS, when we would watch the episodes, we're in that big studio with the big LCS money that used to be there. It was just quiet. And people on their phones and whatever. And they're watching the game. Don't get me wrong. They're watching the game and talk about it a little bit. But I like watching it as a fan. Like I just like some of the comments said, like I don't have the biggest game knowledge there is, but I have good historical knowledge and I have a huge fandom for League. And that's how I want to watch it in our studio in the back. So like I'm yelling, I am freaking out when there's a big play, regardless of what team it is. And it creates like that environment that's a little bit
Hashtag
different.
passion. dGon's got the hashtag passion.
Thanks.
And at the LCK in general, we do yell at the TV a lot. Sometimes we like stand up and start like doing like you know when you jump in the air and swing your fist as if you're doing like a hammer swing to like put a nail into something, but like there's no nail and you're just jumping and swinging because you're like either hyped or angry. We're all doing that all the time. Like I think it didn't happen all the time at the LCK on the global side on the desk until Huni joined. And then Huni would just literally be like, "This is the worst thing I've ever seen. This player actually should retire. I should replace him." And he would be talking about like a top 3 top laner, and he would just be like, "This is the worst." Because every player makes mistakes, right? Every player does the wrong item build sometimes, whatever. And we would all kind of like think it like a little bit like, "Oh God, this guy's not having his best day." But Huni would say it out loud, and then we got Wadid, and then he does the same thing, and we're all just like, "All right, at this point, we're all just like, yeah, I'm an ex-pro gamer. Like, no, I'm not. But like, we're like, yeah, this guy really needs to get his shit together. Like, what's going on? Or like,
what?
You know,
what they're doing is illegal. I could do it in 2 weeks. And I'm like, 2 weeks, we did okay.
yeah, like watching Rich sometimes play well randomly and then just screaming "Heroes of the Storm" at the TV,
Heroes of the
even though that doesn't make.
Storm!
I'm just like "Heroes of the Storm." It's just very fun. Like we have a whole like subsection of culture at the LCK Global desk that you guys will never see. Except when like dGon is put on camera when he's screaming about bro, like you guys actually will see that specific part. But for the most part, like it's very fun, and we mauled a lot. It's great. We're all constantly saying things off camera, off microphone, like, is the LCK the worst region? Are we gonna lose to LTA? Like
LTA South, yeah. Like yeah, it happens a lot. And the reason why I bring that up is because the bro thing was just the beginning of it, in my opinion. Like I think we should be diving into people's favorite teams, favorite players, favorite moments. We should be having those types of things to remind everyone, as much as the guys that I get to work with are some of the smartest and best presenters in League. We're fans too, and capturing that fandom is very important. I know like having me have like a heart attack over bro games can be overbearing, but I'm excited to see if we can start bringing in everyone else. The other thing I'm excited for were the positive comments that we had in our comments. So I didn't want to just shout out the negative Nancy's. Appreciate the homies that have said nice things. So Casniege, the Monte Tihi one without Montihi was like that one ended up being pretty good. And then Rachel Helke, who does it across all of our Last Free Nation episodes. So thank you all for watching, supporting, and stuff. And for those of you spurring conversation, we take those into consideration as well. We just don't have time, just kind of like on the show, to show it all. So, all right. So with that said, let's get into some of our reactions and opinions from this week. And we have to start at the biggest story of the LCK, probably one of the biggest stories across all of League of Legends. It's the birthing of a star. Smashy has returned and answered the big question that Wolf had: who was going to play in the GenG game? And they stuck with the kid, and the kid fucking delivered again, Wolf.
He played
crazy.
Zeri. It's what we were waiting for. He played Zeri. It did feel like a bit of a statement in his first few matches where he was like, "I'm playing only the champions that Guma can't play." That's not necessarily true because he played Caitlyn also. But then everyone's like, "Well, can he play Zeri?" Because Guma seems to not enjoy playing Zeri. And by the way, like this is just basically a fact. Like he statistically in the Zeri meta, Guma did not play very many Zeri games. He played like 2. I don't know. I was pulling that number out of my ass, but like he played very few. And then when I went to Saudi Arabia for the Esports World Cup, um, I was able to interview Guma, which was really cool. I don't think this interview ever got released, by the way, which is really sad. But anyway, I interviewed him.
I wonder if we can
Um,
get it. I
maybe like
I'll make a
it's
meme out.
definitely exists. It's out there. I just don't think they ever released it for some reason because there were a ton of interviews that everybody did. And so like some like I interviewed Lehens, and Lehens' interview was amazing, but like GenG got knocked out in the first day, so maybe they were like, like we'll scrap that. But anyway, I asked him specifically about Zeri. Like I was like, hey, so a lot of fans are, curious, like you don't really play Zeri. Um, what's up with that? And he was like, I think I'm pretty good at Zeri, but it's not a champion I really prefer, and I don't think my Zeri is as good as other Zeri top 80 carry Zeris, and I've been working on trying to get better at it. It's been a big focal point for me, but like he basically admitted he's not a Zeri guy. He was like, I'm working on it, but like that's not my thing. Um, and like that was really cool for me to actually hear that from him, like directly, like on a one-on-one conversation where I'm asking him questions in Korean and in English. Like, we had a translator there and stuff, but like I got to sit down and talk to him, which is very rare to actually be able to sit down and talk with a T1 player specifically. They don't do interviews very often, and they usually leave that to like PR people or Coma. So it's very known that Guma's not a Zeri guy. But anyway, Smash played Zeri. He had some incredible plays. His team set him up really well, and he slid in and he did the Zeri things, right? Like that's what Smash is partially on this roster for. Is he's like, I can do this. I can be the Zeri guy. I can slide in and press R and then click on people and it does the bouncy thing. That's me. And I really got thinking about Smash a lot this week, and I talked to a bunch of people about this to see if they felt like this take was off or if it was right. Doran changed this roster, right? So Doran doesn't get the same resources that Zayas got when he was on T1, and they don't play through Doran the same way in draft because Doran is the weak side guy. He's the I can absorb pressure. That's what he was always like on GenG. You talk to Arnold about it, and like he'll tell you straight up, like that's the whole thing with Doran. That's why we wanted Doran. We wanted to play through bot side more. We want to play through Chovy more. Doran, you leave top side as an island. Doran will, go 0-2 if he has to, and not int and still farm and still be relevant. And he likes it basically. Like Doran's like, yeah, I will just sit there and die and lose lane and get dove. That's my thing. This is what I like to do as a top laner, so the rest of the team can win. Because Doran is actually just a hero. So now you can play through bottom a little bit more. But is Guma the guy who's going to pop off and carry? Guma is an incredible player. Don't get me wrong. He's very consistent. I think that's the thing you can say about Guma more than almost any 80 carry in the LCK. He's very consistent. If you set him up, he's not going to fuck it up. He's absolutely going to do the damage. He's going to front to back that team fight. And if you give an opportunity, like you stun somebody, he will follow up on Ash Arrow. He will win lane with Keria. He and Keria are super good at that. Winning 2v2s when you have a favorable matchup, pushing in his Caitlyn. Even if you give him like a Ezreal, he's not the best Ezreal player, but he's got an Ezreal Karma lane, he's going to get advantages. You know what I mean? That's true. Great at front to backs when his team sets him up. But is he going to pop off and carry? Is he going to take risks? Is he going to see opportunities like Smash does? No. And I think with Zayas not on this team, and you don't have that explosive carry potential, you don't have that explosive, like, oh, Zayas is going to Yone ult 3 people from an angle nobody could really imagine or think of. If you don't have that anymore, you need a player who's going to take risks. You need a player who's going to, like, flash over wall and kill somebody. You're going to find Chovy out of position and fucking pop him, That's Smash right now. And I think that, is Smash better than Guma? Not necessarily, but I think, is Smash better for this roster than Guma right now? I would say yes, especially in this meta. So I'm not saying Guma's never going to come back, but I think if you look at what Smash has brought to this team and how well T1 identified this early, like, hey, this could actually be a good thing. I'm super high on T1 right now. Like, they beat GenG. I think this team might be the best team in the LCK. Sorry, Dplus fans. I'm not ready to trust yet. I know you guys went undefeated, but you played against the other group only, the bad group, and you barely beat T1, which is definitely the best team in that group. So I'm not ready to trust that Dplus is the best team yet, but I think T1 could actually win this tournament. Like right now, if somebody put a gun to my head or just asked me politely, like, who do you think is going to win?
What the?
They probably put a gun to my head and
There are no
asked,
guns
like,
in
I think T1
Korea.
wins. But if somebody just asked me politely, I'd also give the same answer. Like, yeah, I think T1 will win. What I'm saying is like I have a really strong gut feeling that T1 will win this tournament.
What you're
I
saying
actually think
is
they're gonna
you
do it.
think T1 fans have guns and they can't ask you politely? Jeez, Wolf. All right.
I
Well,
didn't say that, but yeah, I mean,
all
maybe like if any fan to
all
put a
right.
gun to my head, I'd be like, "What's the jersey?" Ah, I see.
Yeah, not like, oh God, my life it's flashing before my eyes. I could still use my eyes before my lash.
Can
My
you
life
imagine like a KT Rollster or a G2 fan putting a gun to your head? No. A T1 fan, can you
KT
imagine it?
roster fan
Yeah,
doing
I
that.
can.
Monte's a KT fan, so I could see that happening. A couple facts for you. One, guess how many games Guma played in spring of last year? Spring of last year, when Zeri came
Like
out.
how many games total?
Yes.
I mean, like hold on, like LCK is like
LCK of spring regular season and playoffs.
all right, so hold on. There's 9 matches per round robin, so like 18 games, 18 matches, so 36 minimum to
36 minimum,
54 maximum. I'm gonna
well,
guess
if you're thinking about this too hard, what does a great host do for his analysts?
I'm like 45. He played 45 games.
He sets them up for success. How many games did you say Guma played?
45?
Like when you're like, I'm pulling this stat out of my butt. I don't know. You said 2.
I mean,
he only played 2. You were right. You were right.
No, yeah,
yes.
no, I knew that one. Actually, he played like 2 games of Zeri, yeah. I think you said how many games did you play? I was like, 45. How many total games did you play? Play 2 of 45 on Zeri? Yeah, that makes sense to me.
Oh, I'm like alley-ooping for you, and you're not paying attention.
Yeah, sorry. No, I looked up his stats. I looked up his stats a lot during that time because I was like, is he playing Zeri? I'm like, he's really not. And then I would say that on cast, and I would get attacked by people like, he can play Zeri. You don't know Wolf. I saw him play Zeri that one time. I'm like, no, I'm pretty sure he doesn't do it. And then I interviewed him and I asked him about it. Anyway, he doesn't play it.
I love how I interviewed him so that I could, have my vendetta like fulfilled of like being correct, so I could say, "Oh, Guma got himself."
By the way, I very rarely interview players because I just don't. I'm not a journalist. I'm a commentator, and we work with Korean players across my career, like StarCraft, StarCraft 2, Heroes of the Storm, Overwatch, etc. Like I'm the Western guy, so to interview players, either my Korean back in the day wasn't good enough to do it, or like I'm the global caster who's like on the back room, like I'm not really in the spotlight like the actual interviewers and stuff are.
Yeah.
So I very rarely get to interview players, but when I do, this is possibly why like I very rarely get the chance to interview players. I don't do the circle jerk, I don't actually just go like, "You were great." Do you have anything to say to your fans? I usually like ask really hard questions like, "Hey, people think you suck at Zeri. What's going on with that?" That's the kind of question I like to ask.
Yeah, that's that
because I'm like, "You're incredible, but
PR,
like, what's going
PR
on?"
company.
Yeah,
like that Wolf guy. He's rude. So he played 2 games of Zeri in spring. He played 6 in summer. Went 3-3. Lost both those 2 in spring, and then played 1 over at Esports World Cup. Lost on that as well. I think. With most of the with all the points you said about Smash being more of a playmaking carry player where he can play these Yun type champions. I'm pulling out Team Liquid's Yun of like in your face, playing on the edge, and for Yun, it was needing to trust that his team will support him if he messes up. That's what T1's doing for Smash, which is where I'm a little bit conflicted here for Guma. Like, he didn't look good in that first week for sure. Like, everyone saw it, that, looks at it, at least rationally. I think everyone else started playing better. Like, I think they put the eggs in the Smash basket, right? That first game he got, it was Kaisa. And then the Ezreal game, it was like funneling everything through him to make it easier to play. I think that first week, we were forgetting how many changes happened in the game. Not in terms of quantity, but like the quality of the game. We now know. Remember that first week you're like, I'm casting, and then we're looking bot lane at the dive, and then there's Grubs, and then we're looking at Drake, and then we're looking back at Grubs, and then another dive, and then first tower, and then
feats of strength and
Herald. Yeah, exactly. And I think that happened to T1. And now that they've had a little bit more time, the whole team understands how the tempo of the game goes. Is it optimized yet? No, but you could see how much more comfortable they are. Faker is one of the best mids in the league again. Like, he's playing super well compared to where he was like midsummer, like during the regular season. Doran looked like he knew what he was doing, and he probably looked the best out of everyone in that first week, and now really looks comfortable in this lane swap meta, knows when to just back away from the tower, knows when the dive's coming without vision, and I think that's helped a ton. So it does feel like somewhat unfair to Guma that things seem solved, everyone feels more comfortable, so now everyone else is playing well, but now this kid's coming in and getting like baby treatment and like looking good, and I can see why that could be frustrating for him. That's frustrating, dude.
Here's the thing, and Guma
brotherhood dude.
Hashtag brotherhood minus Guma. Hashtag brother bench. I don't know. Look, here's the thing Guma has to understand, and he must know more than me, more than you, more than any fan, is that he's an AD carry, okay? And as AD carry, you are the most replaceable slot-in role that like exists in League of Legends. Because mid, there's a lot of communication between the jungler and the mid laner. You got to get that mid prio. You got to roam topside sometimes. You got to roam to Grubs. You got to roam to Dragon. You got to go bottom. You got to fucking bail people out. Mid's hard. You know, top laner, you're like up there, you got to teleport in, you got to make big impacts. You're like, oh, do I teleport and try to save this play, and then I'm gonna lose my side? All this stuff. The support, you're fucking everywhere. Okay, you're dropping wards, you're communicating, you're shot calling. We go Baron. I saw them over here. I saw them over there. I saw them over there. Jungle, same thing. I'm going top side. I got to do this thing. I do this. AD carry's like, cool. He hears all of those things, and he's like, cool. Yeah, I'll be there. Yeah. Please engage. Yep. I'm gonna auto, and we're gonna kite. We're gonna do cool things. And it's going to be great. Smash is kind of like breaking the mold a little bit on that. He's one of those crazy players who does just go in by himself and make a thing happen. Like Diablo is known for doing this, right? We've got a lot of AD carries in the LCK where like, I actually am not that guy, Wolf. I will just do something crazy. Or Ruler, who communicates a ton, actually shares a lot. I actually think it's like scholastically incorrect to be the shot caller as an AD carry because your positioning is so important. Your farming is so important. You shouldn't really be talking that much. Like, you should be focusing on getting to the highest amount of CS, hit your 2, 3, 4 full item build kind of situation as fast as you can, and like just kind of be a machine gun but not actually a brain. That's kind of like what the role AD carry implies. So for Guma, like, when the whole team was playing incredibly well, Faker's like back in form. Like you said, Doran makes me believe in Tank Jace, which I was a big hater of. He's completely reframed my entire opinion about Tank Jace, based on how he's playing. Based on how he's like, yeah, I will lose waves of minions because Jace is an eco champion and it tanks. I'm like, whoa, Doran, what the fuck are you doing, man? You don't have any farm. Like, you're Jace, man. You need to get that farm, like, or you're fucked. Like, they have a lot of armor. And then I'm like, oh no, he's Tank Jace. I'm like, hold on, look at him engage. He just sits on top of people. Because Jace has like a long extended engage range because he can fucking to the skies and get in there and hammer somebody, and he's just in there doing a little bit of AoE damage, but the rest of the team follows up. And you can't kill the Jace. Like, he doesn't die for some reason. Because it seems like, oh, that stupid Jace, I'll just swat him like a fly, but he's just like still hurting the AD carry. They're like, whoa, wait a second, like, we can't stop that. Like, Jace's engage is too weird. He can get too close. Doran played it so well in that GenG series. His final KDA was 0-2-14, which will break your brain if you're like a Jace enjoyer who watched Lethality Jace for years. You're like, he played bad, I guess, because he didn't kill anybody and do that much damage, and he only had 12,000 gold. No, he knows how to play low eco Jace. You've got him playing well. You've got Owner also being arguably the most consistent player on this roster. Faker's back. And Keria just looks the same. Like, he plays eclectic champions. He's a smart player. Like, whatever. He can play with anybody. It wasn't like maybe we're figuring out that Carrier Guma wasn't required. Like it wasn't because Carrier was empowered by Guma. He's just great in general.
I know all of those like shorts of like, look at Guma Hyung hug Carrier like during the sad moments, or like who's the
That's
first
all
person
real.
they
I mean, that's
hug?
all real. But like in truth, like
Who's the
Carrier
first
doesn't.
person when they hug when they win the championship? Oh, they hug each other. Oh, like
Carrier doesn't look like he needs Guma to be a good player. You know what I mean? Like he looks like he can be his own independent support, and he was, by the way, on DRX before he joined T1. But Smash is just like, no, I'm going crazy sicko mode. I'm gonna do all the setup things. Faker is like literally on Victory. He's playing bullet hell and dodging things like super adeptly and like actually positioning incredibly well and doing massive damage. And then Smash is like, okay, I go in now. I'm smart. I know this. I've seen this angle. I'm from Challengers. I just love watching this T1 roster. Like they look really good. Now on the other side, because we've been talking about
GenG
Smash,
time.
I feel like GenG do not look like they are quite at their ceiling. They're like not even quite at like the height of the lamp in the room, the tallest lamp in the room. Like they're not quite even approaching the ceiling. I think they have a lot of potential. I think this roster
Is that a
not,
saying? Wait. I'm not gonna let you get away. Is that a saying? The
No,
tallest
I mean,
lamp in the room?
I mean, I'm just saying, like, I'm like, if you look at the floor to the ceiling, like, what would be like about like 3/4 ceiling? I'm like, oh, tallest lamp in the room, like this lamp you can see like over here. See that? All right, like
If
that.
there's
It's like
a hate
pretty hot,
comment
but it's
now,
not
like
quite.
I understand. I just that one you have multiple lamps in your room to like measure which one's the tallest. There's only one lamp.
Yeah, there's only one lamp. I mean, I have my like studio lighting and stuff.
All right, go.
Anyway,
Continue.
GenG is not playing that well. Like Chovy's individually kind of not looking that great. Cannon too. Ruler is like yelling at people, and he's shot calling, and he's like, "This is my team now. It was my team before," and I think the dynamic just isn't working yet. And I think, like I said this so many times,
Duro was deathly ill, Wolf. He was deathly ill this week to the point where they were going to sub in. I want to get his name right.
Namgoon.
I was going to say Gimgoon, not Gimgoon. Namgoon.
Namgoon is not a LCK level support at the moment. I will be honest. Like so here's what happened. Look behind the curtain.
Yeah.
GenG was like, Duro is ill. We would like to play Namgoon. Please wait. And
can you tell him when did this happen? At what time? Like what was the timer before the match started?
It was like, I don't know, 30 or 40 minutes before the game.
It was like 30 minutes before the game.
Yeah. So like they were like, we would like to use a different player because he's sick. Please allow us a little bit of additional time. And LCK was like, no, we have rules. Like, sorry, you can lose game 1, and then we'll wait. And then you can have him in game 2. And because like I think that's the way it should be. And LCK is held firm on this. They were like, no, like you can't do this. I don't know who in GenG requested this. I don't know if it was like, their operations team or Coach Kim or what happened. But anyway, they were like, Duro's really sick. We need help. And they were like, well, you didn't really prepare for that, actually. So get wrecked and you're going to lose game 1 by default. So they were like, okay, we got to play Duro while he's sick against T1, by the way. So it's like, it's the big matchup. And he played fine. And then Namgoon got to assumedly, I wasn't there that day. Actually, this was my day off, but I heard all these things. Assumedly, Namgoon arrived, and then they were like, okay, Duro is playing well enough, it's fine. So we're just going to keep using him for the rest of the series. And that's what they did. I don't want to judge Duro specifically based on this series, because A, he was ill, and like B, he didn't play that bad or anything like that. But I feel like going into this tournament, I was the guy who said this like louder than everyone else. I was like, I don't think Duro is going to be good for this roster. I think he's just inexperienced. Like he was a pretty good player in Challengers. I actually was like one of the champions of Duros and Challengers. I was like, yeah, this guy's pretty good. He's solid, blah blah blah. Like I said about Bout and some of the other support players. Bible, I said the same thing. But I was like, in my mind, Duro ends up on like DRX. You know what I mean? Like he's really solid and he can develop and he can spend a year on DRX and then maybe like after he proves himself, then he could be on GenG, whatever, if he can continue to grow, if his trajectory is going up and up. But you put this guy with Ruler and this roster of like superstars, Keen, Canyon, Chovy, and he just sticks out like a sore thumb because he just doesn't have the experience that all these other players have. Like he's not Lehens, who has more experience than almost anybody, who can slot into any roster like Nongshim and try to save them and carry more on that later, maybe. Maybe not. But it's not like Duro's bad. It doesn't make sense for him to be in this roster. He's the new Doran.
What were the options? What were the options?
Well, I mean, that's what I mean. It's like, well, keeping Lehens, but there is a salary cap, okay? You have Keen, Canyon, Chovy, and you want Ruler. You can't keep Lens. So Doran on this team used to be the like low salary guy who's, I mean, by the way, not super low salary, like actually really good salary, but for like compared to everybody else on the team, like he was your eco. Now you're like, we got Ruler, like we really need eco, and I don't know what Duro's getting paid, but it's probably not a lot because he hasn't proved himself in the LCK. Maybe his salary will go up in his next contract period if he proves himself. But like GenG needed a. They were, let's just say, like, you know, there's been a lot of rumors and reports that like Hanwha was looking for Carrier. GenG was like, I'm not getting into that. You know, like we've got a pretty expensive roster. I'm not trying to get Carrier. I'm just gonna look at Duro. He seems pretty solid. And like Duro is solid, but he is a weak link. And then Chovy and Canyon are playing overall worse so far this season. I'm not saying they're bad. Like they're still top in their position. I mean, not top, but like top 3, I would say. But you're just seeing Chovy like get owned by closer, and you're like, wait, what? And then Canyon and he don't seem to have the same synergy we saw for them last summer. MSI obviously was quite impressive for them. So I just think GenG right now, I predicted them to lose to T1. It was me, you, and Wadid were the only ones. And yes, Duro was sick, which every GenG predator like will not let me live it down. Like, you only got it right because Duro was sick. But like Duro actually played normally, I feel that day on that day. Like I know he was sick, and like I'm not gonna say he wasn't sick, but like it's not like he played a sick performance where it's like I'm like, oh damn, like he really messed up that day. Like he was really sick for sure. It just didn't feel like that to me. And T1 had a hard fought win. Like it wasn't easy. It was a close series. But I give T1 the edge, especially if we go into best of 5s. I feel like T1's got the potential to beat this team if they end up meeting in the finals, for example, which is like, you know, an LCK classic. So I'm very hyped about T1. I think GenG will recover. I think GenG will come back to full form. You know, I'm seeing Chovy just have an off tournament. Maybe it's just this tournament doesn't mean as much to him as LCK does. I don't know. He's still got the recover from off-season blues. I don't know what it is. He's just not playing at his peak. Well, we've seen Chovy have dips in the past, and he just always comes back up. Like, I don't think people should be worried. It's not like a Showmaker situation where like, ooh, is he going to be, by our standards, because he was really good, like mediocre forever now? No. Like, he's going to be great. Just give him some more time.
So I think this team out of like the top teams is the one that has the most room to grow because of Duro, and also because Ruler got in late. Like he was one of the, I think, later players to rejoin GenG because it hadn't been announced yet. They hadn't done press yet. We haven't seen anything about it. And then eventually they started pushing them out in some of the content and stuff. So I think they're the ones that have some of the most time to gel in a role that you said is important. I think Doran knew what he was going to do for this T1 roster. Duro went from playing with Henna, who's now like not going to play until April with Leon over in LTA, to now having Ruler there and telling, you know, one of the best mid laners in the world what to do, when to be there. Also, I think, you know, we've had some insights on the comms with the team. He's quiet. Like, he's a quiet guy. So I'm compared to Lehens, who is a yapper, who would just yap too much. So they pulled the needle the opposite way. Part of me wonders, like, also on the Lehens thing, what if it wasn't like a salary thing? And what if it was just like Mean Girls, right? Where it's like
It could
King,
be.
Canyon, and Jovi are like, yeah, we're re-signing for sure. Ruler comes in and he's like, I don't want to play with Lehens. And then Lehens is like, yeah, well, maybe the guys will stand up for me. And they're like, sorry, Lehens, go enjoy some
Well, I think more
noodles.
likely if we're going on the Mean Girls route, it's more likely like both Ruler and Lehens are like, look, I've done this before. This guy talks too much. I'm the sport I'm supposed to talk. Ruler's like, this guy's making bad calls. Like he's crazy. He wants to play Singed. I'm just not. I want a stable support player from Challengers who's like, yeah, Ruler is the world champion. Ruler, yeah, I'm gonna listen to what he says because I think Lehens probably wasn't like that. Lehens probably was like, hey, can you like pipe down AD carry? You're the AD carry. I'm gonna talk a lot and I'm gonna do this stuff. Like I don't know, and they seem to have a very good relationship. I've seen Lehens and Ruler interact with each other when like Ruler's on JDG at international tournaments and stuff, and like they seem like they have a good relationship.
Yeah.
We're not implying anything here, but from like a fun if like kind of discussion, it would be interesting if, or like that would be really funny if, like, Ruler and Lehens don't make sense as a duo when you think about what they do and like what their comms are, how heavy the Ruler is on comms as an AD carry because it's just too many voices, right? So Duro being quiet is not how he was in Challengers, and like I feel like in LCK Cup we've had like basically 2.5 weeks. It's been technically 3 weeks, but it's functionally like 2.5 weeks. I'm not ready to judge Duro's quiet voice yet, but when we see content, like that's really all we get at the LCK. Like I can't request comms because that's private and teams don't want people to have that.
Yeah.
Like on the Overwatch League, I could request comms and they would give it to me. There was like a different policy there where I could actually hear what a team was saying on at any given moment during a team fight. I could be like, hey, I'm going to this back room. I'm going to look at these comms. I want to see what they were talking about. Then I'd be like, oh, okay. And then I would be very careful, obviously, about how I use that. But I could know, I could learn from that. Like, okay, this is what they were trying to do in this team fight that went wrong. So now I know. Because oftentimes when you watch a team fight that went wrong, fans are like, these guys are so stupid. But like, if you actually listen to comms, you're like, oh, they thought this and this and this. They had this information, which was like limited, and then they made this choice, whatever. We don't really have that in the LCK. I don't know what Duro is really like and like how much he's really talking, but it seems like he's quiet, like you said, compared to Lehens. And we know Ruler is loud. We have a lot of evidence to back that up so far, and historical evidence as well. So like, I see why GenG went this way, and I think it will be viable. It's and like there's still a top team in the LCK right now, by the way. Is it going to win the LCK Cup yet? I'm not sure. Like I'm not confident in that right now. I think we're going to have to see some big level ups throughout playoffs for that to happen.
All right, we said this was going to be a short show because we only had
it's not so far
5 matches, and we went way down the Smashy Guma tree. We kicked the nest of the T1 drama or T1 glazing, depending on which side you are. But I mean, deservedly so, because we had our question answered. We assume that Smash is going to keep going from here on out, and also that GenG will be good later, but not after 2 weeks, and we don't count this week because Duro was deathly ill to the point where they're subbing. Like, is there a time where, well, literally Teddy. Okay, never mind. Other than Teddy, was there another time where a player was like, I'm so sick,
Oh yeah,
I don't think I can play, but was there?
Andil, I mean, rumor has it like he had a panic attack or something, but like he got subbed out because he suddenly felt sick. That's definitely happened. I'm trying to think of other examples off the top of my head, and nothing's really coming to mind. But I know Andil was like there but sick. There have been players who played through COVID, for example, because they didn't have that many symptoms. After the COVID restrictions were lifted, they were like there with a mask on playing. DRX famously said they were all sick in their like live mic comms thing from last week, where like everyone's like, we're all sick. I guess we'll just power through. So like it happens, but like in Duro's case, he had enteritis supposedly, which is like an intestinal thing, I think.
Oh my
Um,
gosh.
so yeah, he was. It's not the kind of sick um, where you're like sweating and feverish and like you can't function, but it's the kind of sick where you're like,
In
I
pain.
really don't want to be playing a video game in front of thousands of people right now. I would like to actually just be away from here,
I see.
and potentially in a bathroom. Um,
Yeah, just coming from NA, we just didn't really have that except the, you know, the accidental pause, the poop pause that would happen every now and then. It was known that Jensen would like pause and throw up because he would
Area
be.
paused in the finals to go to the bathroom,
Oh
which was
yes, he did do
crazy.
that. He did
I
do
don't think that
that.
should be allowed, but that happened. Cuvée
Yeah.
famously paused in a regular season match to go to the bathroom. It happens, man. But anyway, I just want to say I think GenG is a strong team. I personally predicted T1. I think they're a stronger team now, and I think that was like that thought a lot of people like gave me shit for it, but I think it's kind of I'm kind of vindicated. Like they won the series, and like if you think Duro being sick is the reason why GenG lost, then I think you weren't paying attention. That's my final thoughts. You
All
and me,
right.
we predicted T1, we won.
Yeah, we
GG.
won. We're the T1 Predators. I definitely didn't get the rest of them wrong all week. You know what's not wrong? Our friends that help support us run the show. That's right. We're bringing up our friends into the AM. You've heard us talk about their clothing. I wear their shorts all the time to the gym. It makes my hamstrings and my glutes look fabulous. I also wear the bombers on the broadcast as well. They have a ton of different apparel for you to wear. They've been supporting us now for almost a year or over a year. They've been a great supporter. They have their Into the AM anniversary sale from January 22nd to February 9th with up to 50% off, and you get an additional 10% off using the code LFN at intotheam.com/LFN. I use it all the time, and just like we do across all of our sponsors here at Last Free Nation, we try to give you things that you utilize, that we use ourselves. So thanks to our friends over at Into the AM. Head on over to intotheam.com/LFN to get an additional 10% off using the code LFN. All right.
Seriously great clothes, and like even the t-shirts that I have there that are just like my lounge around the house t-shirts, it's like upgraded my life starting to buy them because I when you wear a t-shirt like what I'm wearing now, which is just like not Into the AM t-shirt, and you're just kind of like wearing it, you're like it's not that comfortable, but like it's not a great shirt. But when I put the Into the AM shirt on, I'm like, now I'm really chilling. This is great. So I just wanted to say like it's been awesome.
I put on the Into the AM shirt and I'm like, I got to be a better person. Thanks to our friends over at Into the AM. All right, we talked about too much of the good League of Legends. I know in the show order we were supposed. I guess that is some bad. No, I want to skip. I'm skipping to the bad League of Legends, man, because you were off, right? Were you there? No, you were there.
Which
Sunday?
match?
Sunday?
I was a Sunday caster. I did the show
Sunday
up for
cast.
work, watch that terrible game, and then go home and
Yeah.
talk about it.
Well, time to go from that terrible game to that terrible team. Not organization, but team. B&K FearX. They're the only team eliminated, joining Leon from the LTA North, and who's the other team? Disguised Toast, who will not play professional League of Legends until April due to the format. What the fuck? These drafts
here, let me
are so unplayable.
They're unplayable, but also let me just read out. I'm just gonna say 5 player names. Okay,
No, it's
come
not the
with me.
player's fault. All right.
No, well,
It's not all the players' fault.
okay, let's just wind back time to before the LCK Cup started.
Yeah.
And you saw B&K FearX's roster, and you were like, clear
Start from the
Raptor
top.
Vikla.
Yeah. No.
Clear Raptor Vikla, Diablo Kellen. And then you were like, oh man, I mean, I love all these guys, but like this is like a bunch of like straight up honestly, it's a bunch of players who've had their chance and failed, and Vikla. I'm like, Vikla sounds like the most hype part of this one, but it's Vikla. I'm like, that's not a good thing. But like Vikla was a guy who got Rookie of the Year, and everyone was like, he was great, and Papa Smithy was like, I'm getting that guy, and then it didn't work out. But like, he's back. But like, Vikla's kind of proven himself. Like, he proved himself in his initial year at the LCK. He went to the LCS and had a great start. Obviously, things fell apart, whatever. But the rest of this team, I'm like, I'm still waiting. Diablo like played in challenges a lot. Okay, to give him some credit, like he's another strong part of this roster. He played in challenges for several years. He was playing in challenges when he was 15, maybe even earlier. But I know he was playing as when I was casting him when he was 15. So he's been in challengers for a while. Lear was hyped. Okay, he was on that DRX roster. That's fine. Like he was very good there. But individually, I think kind of propped up by that really strong DRX roster, and it was challengers. Helen and Life are competing right now to see who can make the poorest decisions in the LCK as a support. And I think Helen is winning. Like, I was like, in week 1, I was like, man, Life's up there. Before this tournament started, I can't think of one single person. And again, I'm sorry to the BNK guys and the I think the name of the ownership is 4x4, like who really owns Sandbox's old org now. I'm sorry to throw shade. Also, get your tri-codes figured out. If you're watching, seriously. I'm not trying to throw shade at you guys, but not a single person didn't have this team in 10th place in their power rankings going into this tournament. Not a single person was like, this team will do anything. Like, everyone was like, this team will do 10th place. It will be the worst team. It's probably going to be the team that gets eliminated. They ended up in the group that lost, so we were like, oh, it's pretty likely this team's going to lose. But they almost beat GenG. They had moments, right? This entire tournament, there were moments where you're like, oh shit, like, this draft was terrible, but like, hold on. Like, they actually snowballed the game. But they make poor decisions in the mid to late game. Individually, these players are not carry players. Like, Clear, we thought maybe he could be, and Chronicler was like, he's so good! I'm like, Chronicler's another Bulldog thing, like, hold on, like, let's calm down. But Bulldog's actually done pretty well for himself. Like, after I was like, Chronicler, you overhyped Bulldog, but he's pretty good still. Clear, I'm like, you overhyped him, but you really overhyped him. Like, he hasn't, like, the Clear that we knew and the Clear that I cast in Challengers hasn't come out yet. He comes out, like, 1 every 8 games, which is not enough. And Kellen is just like, since Worlds, like, he's dropped off so hard. Like, when he had that Worlds performance that was really rough, like, he just never came back. And then you look at Nongshim, similar situation to me where I'm like, oh, they got some leveled up players, but this team is probably bottom 3. You know, they had a great challengers lineup they were working with, and they just like threw a lot of that away. And they're like, we're getting the big names who couldn't get on teams. We got the misfits. And then they didn't do well, and I was like, oh, like, this is kind of what we expected, but it's a little bit rough. But then suddenly in this series, Nongshim's like, we have really good drafts. Like, Lehens can play at least really well, which we knew. Yep. And then we're like, okay, we're doing the Galio, Camille, plus Shen? Like, Galio, Camille's always been a thing, but then plus Shen? And then Lehens is like flash taunting people in team fights, and it looks really clean. I don't want to blame BNK too much. Like, my kind of bottom line with this story is we knew they were going to be bad, and then for a second we were like, wait, and then we're like, oh no, they're a bad team. But like in this particular series, Nongshim actually just trounced them because Nongshim played really well. But BNK really need to take a step back and figure out what their identity is, because before, when they had Willer, because he's still on this team, by the way, he's just in challengers for some reason. What the fuck? When they had Willer and Closer, and like there was a strong mid jungle duo there, and Clear could be a little bit more facilitating, even though that's not what he was on DRX's challengers team. There was something there. Like, there actually was, and you could be like, oh, okay, I can see what you're doing. With this, I'm like, there's nothing here. Vikla is an incredible mechanical player. Raptor is like Walmart budget peanut. Like, he's not like a super strong mechanical player, but he's very smart. But he's not as smart as Peanut, right? And he's got lanes. He's putting out fires because Diablo's laning phases have been weak. Clear's landing phase has been weak. Vikla hasn't shown up the way we expect him to because he's the mechanical guy, right? But he isn't winning these lanes as decisively as he was when he was Rookie of the Year. And so Raptor, like, for me, is like not a problem, but he's a jungler who's trying to put out fires, right? He's a firefighter. I just think they need to figure out how they're gonna. This is not the team that can just play dive and go ham and be like, well, we run it down, win or lose, like, you know, ride or die, because that's not this team's identity anymore. But they need to figure out what their identity is. Otherwise, they will just be, you know, the 1-15 when we're like getting close to the end of LCK. We're like, damn, this team only won one time. When we're getting like through the second round robin.
Let me
Bro, even at their worst, even like that old Hanwha Life roster with Karis, like, didn't look this bad. This is I mean, some of the people on our team, I'm not gonna say who, are saying like this roster might rival like APK Prince and some of the really bad like LCK rosters we've had. I'm not ready to buy into that yet. I think there's still some time, there's still some potential here, but you had to win this game against Nongshim, and you just looked so lost the whole time. Nongshim played well, but like you looked so lost the whole time. I feel for the players.
They beat KT. Like, look here. I pulled up our official document. Maybe I shouldn't do this, but whatever. This is the document that we use to prep. It gets translated for us, and they pull up quotes from Ryu and Shelly, who voice their frustrations over draft-related mistakes following their recent losses. Ryu emphasized poor tier list management, while Shelly regretted misjudging pick ban priorities, allowing both Cassante and Bessa to slip away from their control. Who is responsible for that? No, is it Dplus?
It's Ryu, or it's the players, right? Like,
it's Ryu. I love all players that had their opportunity in North America. Ryu, great mid laner for Phoenix 1 and 100 Thieves. You know, Vikla, he got put in an impossible winning position into FlyQuest. He needs a win. But if you are drafting the misfortune into the Shen, I think the Shen was last pick, but into the Galleon Camille, how the fuck is Diablo supposed to play, man? Like, sure, game
bad.
one,
it was bad.
the Elise, they got Lahens Elise, like he was playing super well all over the place. Maybe, you know, that one on players you can communicate. Maybe the parting words beforehand is like, watch out for the cocoon. I don't know, but these draft setups have been terrible, and they know it. It's not just about our performance. Our draft was flawed from the start. We failed to organize the tier list properly, and I'm really frustrated with myself for that. There are too many drafting mistakes. I think game one was winnable, but we overlooked how difficult the team composition was to execute. Here's the other coach, Coach Shelley. The draft played out as expected in game one, or it played out as expected, but in game one, we failed to trade effectively and ended up giving the enemy team a composition they excel at. It's
all there. It's all there. It's true. It's all true.
It's really honorable that they are, like, you know, indicting themselves and trying to take pressure off the players, but also, come on, bro. Like,
they had Varus available in that third game where they picked MF, and like that would have given them a lot more map control, and they could have snowballed some aspects of that game, but they just seeked MF Rel. They're like, oh, MF Rel, that's up. We get that. I'm like, wait. But think about how it works into what the enemy has. It doesn't work too well. I feel so... Whenever I see Ryu, he always looks so... How do I put this? He looks defeated, okay? And, like, I think that's been, like, iconically for him, like, his whole career, right? Because he lost that 1v1... And then I've heard stories, and like I know Thorin's talked about this, but I've heard stories of like his teammates like basically hazing him and harassing him when like they didn't agree with him and his English wasn't that good, and just replaying that clip like in the team house and stuff like over and over and over again. And it makes me like so hurt. Like that's fucked up.
That's messed up, yeah.
And like he is on this team where a lot of people give him a lot of flack for his draft decisions, but to be honest, like it's warranted because they've been really bad. And he just hasn't been able to have like the big W, like moving into that Faker series, right? With like the Z 1v1, like he was very hyped up, right? And he was in peak form at the time, and like it looked really good for him. And then he got owned there, and they just got owned like for the rest of his life. It feels like, and that's just when I see him. This is my personal take. Like when I see him, I'm like, he looks injured. You know what I mean? Like from like his heart is bleeding, and I want to see him do well. But he's got to make better choices in these drafts because if he doesn't, then like, he's just gonna constantly be like the guy who never made it, never did anything. When he locked into this roster and he became the coach, I was like, oh shit, like Ryu is one of the people I really respect. Like he was one of the OGs. That's really cool. He's been around for a long time. Yeah. I was big upping it, but it hasn't come to fruition yet. And I just every time I see him, he looks sad, and like I want to feel for him, but I'm also like, dude, that's the guy who just locked MF into this draft, man. Like, oh my god, like Jesus. It might have been Diablo, who's like just a newer player who like is like, I need to play MF here. Like, I'm not comfortable playing anything else, but I don't know. But like, just Ryu, I love you, man, and I want you to have the best success. Like, I really feel for you. Like, a lot of people, want you to do well. Like, a lot of people are like, I love Ryu. Like, even though he lost to Faker that one time, and that's like his most famous thing. It's like just. I want you to have success, but like you have to like figure it out, please, because some of these draft mistakes are like we've seen from 1,000 miles away, and it's not like this is not the first time. This is like the 42nd time, and also he makes comments in these interviews that are released to us, right? We've talked about this on the show before, but like coaches get interviewed. Sometimes it's released, sometimes it's not, but it's given to us as like information that we're allowed to use on the broadcast. And he said basically like this other thing in the interview where he was like, it would be incredibly embarrassing for us if we went 0-5 because we're actually a really good team. And then, like, incredibly embarrassingly, in fact, they lost to Nongshim in their final must-win match and they went 0-5. I'm like, but you drafted like this.
Yeah.
So yeah, I just be better. But this roster, I will tell you guys honestly, and like we probably won't talk about BNK that much this year because they're going to be that team. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
This team, best case scenario is like 9th place. I'm like, oh man, they really improved a lot. They got 9th. Like that's how I feel right now. Like best case scenario, you get 9th. They don't have a great roster. The synergy isn't there. The coaching staff isn't gelling with this team. The drafting has been poor. They almost beat GenG when they had a massive lead, but they even couldn't do that. I'm like, yeah, no. I mean, this team, unfortunately, unless they change their roster or they really make some massive changes in this offseason for them, because they have more time than anyone else. They really utilize that time well. I just think you should go into LCK thinking low expectations for this team. Our expectations were already low, to be fair, before we're going into this. And then they kind of did like 1 or 2 games where you're like, oh. And then you're like, oh, no, they couldn't do it. That GenG loss broke so many people. Where people were like, yep, they can't do it. It's done. That's where I'm at.
I think you brought up Ryu, just to touch on it. He's been in league for like 14, going on 14 years now. If you look up his Leaguepedia when he first started playing competitively, and he's stayed consistent throughout, either as a mid laner or as a coach. Sometimes, like I think of it akin to like weightlifting, bodybuilding, weightlifting, just weightlifting. Sometimes your body just needs a rest. You just need a break, and then come back stronger in a little bit. But right now, I feel like you think it's more of the players with some of the coaches. I think it's more of the coach and the draft with some of the players at fault. Just Vikla is begging for a break, man. Like he got scapegoated on that FlyQuest roster, then moves over to Thunder Talk and gets dumpstered there. It is like 17th, 16th, whatever position he was. The dude can play. We know that Raptor and Clear can play. We saw glimpses of Diablo in game 1, and then he got gun shy. And then you have Kellen, so like, okay, like Kellen, I can't.
Kellen is really not doing well.
Yeah.
It's pretty obvious.
So yeah, we'll see what happens here with the B&K FearX 2-month break. They get 2 months to retool and push into it. And I really hope they find success because this organization, because I got to go see the building and see
Me
what
too. I
they're
shot
trying to
content with them.
do.
It was great.
Yeah, they are really invested in this team and creating a gaming culture, but no culture can be built upon losing unless you're the bros. So you can't have two losing cultures like fan bases be built upon. So hopefully B&K FearX can bounce back and figure this one out.
For real,
All
I
right.
really hope so.
You know what I am sure about are my Raycon everyday earbuds. I actually went to America over the break, and these things are so good. I bought these with my own monies. That's right. Like I bought another pair because I lost my old pair because they're so damn good. I mean, their latest model has a 32-hour battery life with multi-point connectivity, which allows you to pair with multiple devices at once, as well as active noise cancellation, which is difficult to find at an accessible price point. But with Raycon, they start at just half the price at other premium audio brands. Again, these things are so good for my train rides, gym sessions, bus rides over to work. They have multiple different earbud sizes so that fits all different types of ears. And if you don't fall in love with the Raycon product, they have you covered with a 30-day happiness guarantee return policy, no questions asked. So it goes even beyond the everyday bud. So head on over to buyraycon.com/MNW to get 20% off site wide. That's right. You'll get 20% off everything on Raycon's website, including 20% off all headphones too when you go to buyraycon.com using the code /MNW. That's buyraycon.com/MNW. Support the show and level up your audio experience. Thanks to our friends over at Raycon.
Yeah,
Man,
I mean,
I
like,
just love it. I love it, dude. We get to use products that we
I
use.
well, the cool thing about Raycons too is like when dGon is irresponsible and like loses his,
Okay.
like that's what happens. You're like, oh man, there's only so many times Raycon can send me my free things before they're like, all right, what's going on, dude? But because they're so affordable, dGon's like, well, I'll just buy my own, even though it's my sponsor. And he's just like, well, I'm gonna order that. I'm gonna get in there. Because you know what I mean. I'm not gonna name any other brands of like overpriced earbuds, but there's a lot out there. You don't want to be that, but you also don't want to be like, I got these like $15 earbuds on Amazon that suck and don't work. Like the Raycons are actually really good. They're actually really good and they're really affordable. So like, I'm just recommending if you're like, I don't quite have enough to buy big brand, it's overpriced, but I want a good earbud that's gonna work. It's gonna last for me. It's gonna have great battery power, battery life. And get the Raycons. That's all I'm saying. Like the price is great. So much so that dGon, even though he lost his earbuds, he bought a new one.
The Bros won against Dplus. Game one. They won game one. They didn't they didn't win the whole thing. There was a little bit of hope there. It was very exciting. And then afterwards, Dplus. They started cooking, man. Like I was waiting for the Dplus, Pooh Mandu, not Piglet, Pooh Mandu and Bengi like culinary school to backfire. Like these dudes are letting them play whatever the fuck they want. At some point, they were gonna get in trouble, and they did, and the Bros were able to punish them for it. And that's a good thing for the Bros and for the league. And I guess for Dplus, because then they learn their limits.
I really like the Swain angle for Showmaker. And by the way, if you've watched the LCK, you probably know that like I think Swain is pretty bad overall. And I'm whenever I see Swain locked in, I'm like, oh, I don't think this is it. I actually thought the Swain angle was pretty good into the comp of Bro, because they have like Elise Vi, and Ari, and like if he sustains and lives through that, then he's in a good spot. They've got a lot to back it up. They've got a good front line. They've got CC guarantee with the Pantheon, and they have the shields from the Karma. I was like, cool. Like I think this draft is actually robust. Like the casters didn't mention like the Swain potential lock-in, even though it's Showmaker, and I was like yelling at the TV. I'm like, come on, it's that Swain! Like it's so obvious, and they locked it in. But they went 0-6, and the execution was very poor. And I was like, oh, maybe maybe it wasn't the Swain angle, but I actually think it could have been good there. Because there were a lot of tools to set it up, but like Bro played really well in that first game. It was the rest of the series that got a little bit weirder for me. And in game two, like the Tryndamere pick was very cool, and Showmaker has done this before. Like Tryndamere was meta in mid for like a month. I want to say 2 years ago, something like that. Like it's a thing. It has been a thing. Closer played Corki.
God damn it.
So, like niche, cool but relevant pick versus like Corki is very high risk and spikes at a specific moment. And it's not great. I didn't really like that. I think Paulo underperformed in this series, just in general. Like he was weirdly enough one of the best bros, and now he's kind of like
one of the worst.
I don't know.
Bros.
I'm not like he's still good, but like the team is so good now that like he kind of stands out as like he's underperforming. Whereas before you watched Paulo play like a lot of last year, you're like, and Paulo trying so hard, why can't you guys get it together? Again, I think Bro is actually a strong team. Like for real. Beryl said that too, which was funny. It was a big meme because they played against each other this week. I think Bro is like definitely playoff potential team at the moment. Like when we get to LCK proper, like they might actually make it into the Rise group if they can keep up this level of form relative to everyone else. But like this series wasn't clean. Weirdly enough, I feel like game one for Bro was the cleanest series or cleanest game in the series, and the other two were like very messy, and Dplus kind of punched their way through.
They outscaled and did the split push thing. Because remember, like in game two, they did have the early kill. Remember, like Beryl just went like on Poppy, just way like behind the enemy lines and just died. And we're like, okay, bros are rolling. Things will be okay. And you've called it. This is an early game team. And you can see actually how successful a solid early game team can be with the bros. But they don't know what to do after that.
Sometimes they do. But I feel like Hambach, he always looks for like instead of looking for when you're a jungler, like especially when you're playing Vi, for example, which Hambach plays a lot, sometimes you can make a choice with your ult where you're like, this is a 1 out of 3 chance to get us a small win, and then like we can stop Baron. Or you could go for the like 1 out of 10 chance, like we win this whole team fight and win the game. And like you could see like how he's moving, like he's like charging his Q, and he's like, I think I'm going for the 1 out of 10 chance. I'm like, what? Hold on. That's like statistically, that's not the right option. He's like, I think I'm gonna ult the front line here. That's super tanky. If we can burst it down fast enough, then we can win the fight. I'm like, yeah, but like, hold on, just wait and look for an angle on the 80 carry. But like, look, he's a great player, and he has earned his right to be hyped. Like people are hyping him because he's good, and like he was good for 2 years in challengers, and like he deserves the hype. But decision-making wise, like I feel like he's one of the weaker links on this roster that's otherwise got a lot of veterans, like Morgan and closers specifically. I think he needs to just be a little bit better at judging situations. But otherwise, yeah, I think this team can make good calls in the late game. Like they can do it. They're just not doing it consistently. And if they can shore that up, their early game, like you said, and like we've been talking about so much, is really good. Like they're really solid.
The positive thing is both these games, they get pulled apart by split push decision making. It was LeBlanc, it was both by Showmaker, LeBlanc in game 3, Tryndamere in game 2. And hopefully Edgar goes back and has the tape and allows them to be like, okay, this is when we lost being the driver of the game. This is when we didn't know what to do. And here are the multitude of options we could have done. And here, in Dplus's case, is a team that knew what to do when they had a 30% chance of winning, a 50% chance of winning. They had control of the game, and they had multiple options to confuse us, and they picked the right ones because we all got mad confused. Like that to me is like the positive part out of this from Bro. But I'm not sure if I'm always paying attention because we get to see the guys in the back, right? The rooms are always like they're like the furthest back in the studio, and then there's like this neutral area, like cafeteria area, and the players have to walk by to go to like media or go to the stage or leave. When they walked after that one, they looked sad. They looked as sad as BNK FearX did when they got eliminated, which makes me a little nervous. They're taking these losses personally and not as like growing pains. It's just growing pains, guys. So that's my concern.
Some of the things I've noticed about Bro this year since they won Kespa Cup has been like their KT. Remember KT's like family attitude, like the family vibes kind of thing we've seen. It reminds me of that. Like Closer looks happy, and that I haven't seen that in a really long time. Like he's always had his like very stressed out face on for a long time since he was playing behind Faker. There was like a lot of tension throughout his career about like his potential and like how hyped up he was, but he never was able to realize it. He's like making jokes. He's like, I've seen it all. Like I've lost a lot, you know. But like he and Morgan together, when you see them talk to the rookie, like to Hambach and to Hype as well, who's like a lone player. There's just like such a vibe in this roster where they're like, we can do anything. And I think, you know, talking about like some of the macro decisions and like dealing with side lane pressure and stuff like that, you can't. It's really hard to change a player's identity, right? Like somebody like Closer, he's got a clear play style, right? Probably shouldn't be playing Corki too much. I think that was a bit of a miss for me. But you put him on Akali, you put him on Silas, you put him on some of these other picks, and you're like, holy shit! You put him on Talia, you're like, I know who you are. But some of the and dealing with silent pressure, you can teach that though. Like you can teach that. One of the other things you can't teach is like team synergy and the dynamic. Like you can't coach a team to like each other. Like you can try and you can do team building exercises. You can take everyone to drink a bunch of soju and talk about their lives and their backstories and stuff. And teams do that, by the way. It's team building. That's common.
That's right. The LCK broadcast team is a team. Go ahead. Keep going.
Yes. You can't actually train the family vibes. And they have that. Like I've seen it. And I know it's there. And so I think these players are going to be like, hey, like, remember that one time, Hambach, where you queued left when you should have queued right? Or like, hey, Morgan, I think your teleport flank was a little bit overzealous there. When they talk to each other about this, more than even the coaching staff, because like everybody knows this is just a fact of life. When an authority figure tells you something, you're less likely to respond well to it than if somebody you respect, like your friend or something like that's really close with you, tells you something. In general, right? I'm not saying they're not listening to Edgar. I'm just saying when Edgar says something, but then also Hambach is talking to you about it, and he's like, hey, man, like, I think we could play this better. You're just going to grow faster. You're going to be better as a unit. You have that camaraderie. And I've seen that in this team. And so I'm very high on Bro, even though they had a bad record this LCK Cup so far. And yes, they only like beat GenG, but that was a big accomplishment. But even in their other losses, they looked really convincing to me.
Close.
They won Kespa Cup. Yeah. And I just think this team has it in them to be like, I think their ceiling could be like a top 3 team if they realize it. I don't know if they will. I'm not going to predict that, but I think it could be. And from looking at this roster before the season started and before Kespa Cup, really, I was like, nah. I mean, cool.
I was nervous.
I felt like I was like, hey, you're one step above like DRX and Sandbox. So what is it, BNK? You're like one step above those two, but you're like a solid 8th. And now, after watching what's happened so far, I'm like, damn, like this team could actually do good things. We've seen Bro do this before with Umpty and Lava, and we're like, wait a second, it's a playoff team. And I don't want to like burn myself by getting excited, but I do think there's some real potential. And Dplus also, don't cook too hard. That's my kind of like final thoughts on you moving to playoffs, because you're a really good team too. And for a while, you were our most consistent team. I think T1 has passed you now. And Dplus still has the best drafts. I think they have the best drafting in the LCK right now. But like, don't cook too much. Best of 5s are coming. Showmaker, I know you want to play like, you know, Cassidy or something, but like, hold on, let's judge the situation. That's where I'm at for this team. I think both these teams are super good, and I think a best of 5s, Dplus will be a powerhouse team because their draft skill and their champion pools are so large.
Yeah. So with the bros, you're saying you can't teach brotherhood, you know?
No, you can't teach that. It's
Bromradery.
inherent. No.
Yeah. No. Okay. Yeah, I'm excited for best of fives to see what ingredients the chefs over at Dplus can cook up with. We have not seen that yet here in the LCK, which perfectly transitions us to the LCK bracket, which producer Andrew will populate somewhere right here, just on our faces. We've got the bracket up. We had two brackets. We have the play-ins bracket and the play-off bracket, where I don't know about you, dude, but I didn't realize how much of a boost. We're going to the playoff bracket first, and then we'll talk play-ins because play-ins is more recent. But KT get to play the 6th place team, or whoever finishes 3rd in play-ins. That's the stupidest shit ever.
It is pretty dumb, but it's based on the fact that they're in the winning group. So I've seen your comments. I've seen your comments, guys, about Wolf doesn't know the format too well, and stuff like that. This format I think is very experimental and probably will be improved. But some of the things that I think LCK were trying to do, and sometimes I'm like, oh, they were doing this, and I'm like, oh no, that's not the rules. I'm like, oh, okay. Some of the things in this are very exciting. If you want to make winning as a group, I chose these teams and we won and we get benefits. If you want to make that super relevant and people actually care about it, instead of just being like, it's these teams that play against those other ones and then those other ones play against these other ones, you have to give them big benefits, right? So KT is in the winning group, so they get that big benefit. T1 and Hanwha are in the same group, so they need to play against each other because they didn't play against each other yet. And they're competing against each other for those spots. Are T1 and Hanwha way better than KT? Yes. But with this format, we have to be like, well, I guess KT's in the winning group, though. They get those benefits. So KT is just over there waiting. And as a result, if T1 and Hanwha are, in fact, the good teams that we expect, then they will play against each other in the first round of playoffs if they both win those qualification matches, and one of them will be eliminated in the first round because the first round of playoffs is not double elimination. So we could potentially lose T1 or Hanwha right away. Right now I'm thinking it's probably going to be Hanwha, but we'll see. I don't like this because, for example, whoever loses to T1 or Hanwha and then wins the next matchup will play against KT.
Play against KT? That's so stupid.
So that doesn't really make sense.
We're looking at a world where it could be Dplus, GenG, T1, and the Bros as the top 4 teams. Because of the way that seeding works out, unless, and this is where it gets a little sketchy, and LCK doesn't really do sketchy like this. But what if T1 just subs in? You know what? You know who goes well with Smash? not Carrier, but what if they just slide in their T1 Esports Academy support? Oh, Smash did well. What if we slide in Cloud as well here as we take on the Bros, or Nongshim, but obviously the Bros. And then, oops, we lost the round 2 game. Looks like we're gonna have to play for the 3rd seed match.
I was not sure where you were going with this at first. I was like, wait, dGon, they would never play Cloud. It's not gonna happen. Oh, I see what you're saying. What if they suspiciously had an underperformance for some reason?
Yeah, it'd be very even more interesting if we're LCK and we're just trying to make interesting formats here. What if they play the matches at the same time without them knowing what the other team's doing, and both T1 and Hanwha suspiciously sub in their academy teams against DRX and Bro, who then qualify, and then they're the ones playing the qualifier match.
Format should never if a format of a tournament encourages maybe losing would be optimal.
Oh my god.
Then the format is broken. That's just a fact of formats. if that is the case, then your format is broken, and so there needs to be some adjustments made. I think the LCK thought the groups would be more competitive. I think the LCK thought that the groups also wouldn't be top heavy, but guess what? It's LCK. Like we're always top heavy.
Yeah, but even then, like even let's just flip it to the other side. To be fair, let's flip it to the other side. Then we have T1 and Hanwha, right, as seeds 1 and 2, and that means your third seed is DNF, Bro, or BNK FearX that's getting this third seed benefit. So I think it's not, hey, it played out wrong. I agree with your original statement of like, hey, this being the third team in the winning group benefit is the most busted thing like that anyone's gonna remember about this cup tournament.
Yeah.
So yeah.
I think just looking at the broader bracket though, Dplus still has team selection, which is cool. So like it'll get better once we move into real playoffs, and whoever wins that T1 Hanwha match, assuming that they match up, which I think is a pretty reasonable assumption right now. Hanwha is starting to recover a little bit. Zeus is like playing Anivia, so I don't know if that's a good thing, but it's a good sign. I think that will end up being like, Dplus are like, ooh, I'm not picking T1. Like if T1 wins, which is what I expect, when we look at like the grander playoff bracket, I think Dplus will be like, yeah, I'd rather have KT Rolster, for example, or whoever. Like I'd rather have Bro. I beat Bro already, because it could be Bro, by the way, in that spot. And then they'll let GenG deal with T1. And I think that the bracket will get interesting because the T1 GenG series we talked about already, it was pretty close. It's a best of 5. We'll see how deep those champion pools go. And, if T1 can figure out how to utilize Guma in a best of 5, that'd be cool. They used Teddy and Guma interchangeably in the past. It was different coaching staff with Danny and stuff, but like they have been like, okay, Guma plays this game, he's going to play Zaya, then Teddy's in to play Jinx or whatever. So it's interesting. I think the bracket's going to be fun. It's too early though with these teams with very little data. You look at the playoff bracket for LCK, you feel like I could write this whole thing and be like 99% correct, but like we're 2.5 weeks in to this, so you're like, I think I know how it's gonna go, but I also have been an esports pundit for long enough so that I'm probably very wrong with the limited data that we have.
Yeah, we'll see. We'll see. As much as our Bros favorites against Nongshim. Nongshim beat them before. Like as much as in my head I know how this goes. Like DNF or DRX, like I'll take Berserker over Teddy and Lazy Feel any day. Is that crazy? I feel like that's not crazy. Like, but I would take whoever's playing support for DRX over Life.
Yeah, I'm leaning towards DRX on that one, even though I like a week ago or really a week and a half ago, I would have been like, no, DRX has no chance. They kind of turned a corner and things are looking better. And Teddy looked fine, but he's probably scrimming a lot and actually back in form a little bit. So
yeah,
DNF didn't even get into this bracket on their own accord, basically. So yeah, I don't know. I think DRX win that one. I think Bro beats Nongshim though. And those are things I'm fairly confident in. Everything else, we'll see what happens.
Yeah, and don't worry, Hanwha fans, Hanwha Life fans. We saw the comments. We'll dive into Hanwha Life when there are matches that matter and tell us something other than Anivia top. Like that there isn't too much more to kind of glean.
It wasn't that good, but it won. And it was fine, and he's practiced a lot.
You know what it looks like? It looks like they're like, hey, do you see Big Brother Dplus? They're cooking. We should try to cook too. And like they throw like a block, like a slab of cheese on top of rice, and then throw in like I don't know, soy sauce and teriyaki sauce and fish sauce, and they're like, look who I made, Big Brother Dplus.
Put some green peas on that. Yeah, no, the last thing I'll say about
Wolf's. It looks like Wolf's lunch over at LCK because he's died.
The last thing I'll say about Zeus is Anivia, because I really don't want to do a whole thing about it. You guys can make your own opinions about it and stuff. I like it because it means they're leaning into Zeus' identity, which is like playing range top laners and dominating lane and having a kind of niche role where you can carry. And
Yeah.
like he did carve that out in that game, which was cool. Like I don't think it was that good, and like he cut some people off, like he was able to isolate some targets and stuff with walls, and it was cool. Like he had mastery of the champion, which is awesome. The fact that you can do that going into Fearless is a good thing, and also means Zeus is like cooking a little bit and being like, I'm not Doran, by the way. Like I do my own weird stuff and I win. Because Han was kind of like, can you be Doran? He's like, no, I'm Zeus. That's why you paid me like millions of dollars. So I like that. That's good. That's a good sign. But I also think Hanwha is definitely one of our weaker top teams right now, and they need to figure it out. This is one step in the right direction. That's my final thought.
All right. Well, we've got ourselves a little bit more tension now as one team has said goodbye until April. That's such a long time. But two more teams will join them at the end of this weekend. You'll catch the action on the LCK Friday, Saturday, and Sunday local Korean time. And that does it for us here. It was supposed to be short, but it was long, Wolf. You are so full of opinions and
I talk
ideas.
too much, dGon. It's fine. Yeah. Love you guys.
Yes. Thank you everyone for watching. We're pushing for potential name changes. Who knows? Maybe it'll happen soon. Either way, we appreciate you for sticking around and growing as this show is changing and evolving. And I appreciate it a lot. I appreciate you, Wolf, a lot. I appreciate you, Andrew, a lot. I appreciate Monte a lot. I'm very full of great gratitude
You
lately.
appreciate Bro a lot?
Yeah, I mean, Bro did get me into the Chinese League of Legends ecosystem, I guess. So we'll see. I need my bros to get a win. Please beat Nongshim. Otherwise, this show's going to be miserable next Tuesday. So until then, make sure you like and subscribe here. Don't miss any of our action across all of the Last Free Nation network. And we'll see you later.